see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech in 3, 2, 1. Chris, so a plan B or like some alternative to a Cam Coleman in my fan mind means sort of like backup plan. But you're talking about alternatives that are still in a pond with big fish potentially. What are we meaning here?
Yeah, I think I'm right here. I was mentioned. I had one of the national guys for the network that we work with on RedRaidersports.com reach out to me early this week, and in the midst of the conversation, he's asking me about, hey man, you heard anything about Joe Bruner? I think is his name, from Wisconsin, offensive lineman. He's one of the top offensive linemen in the portal. And I said, no, not a peep. And we've heard more since. Nothing is out there publicly or anything. But if you go along the lines of with what Joey's thinking, let's talk this out. Because I think not only are you already involved with Joe Bruner, I think there's maybe a visit already set. I don't want to say to you, because I don't know if this is realistic, I don't want to say to you, could you get Cam Coleman and Joe Bruner? So Joe Bruner is an All-American type guard at Wisconsin. He's got arguably one of the best beards you'll ever see. But I don't know if it's realistic for you to do both. Contrary to popular belief, there is you do have to fit this in with a certain dollar amount and all the things, right? You can't just do everybody or you know whatever. This is a big fish. He has visited. I think he's visited Texas already. I think he's set to visit Indiana. Sounds to me like you're on the right type of guy. I think there could be a Texas Tech visit. But it's fair to say that it could be contingent on Cam Coleman. You know, don't get Cam, get Joe Bruner, and let's just think about it in these terms. We know this head coach. If I can't go get this receiver, and we know the face of this movement. So if you can't go get, because receiver has, mostly been picked clean. There's guys out there, and there's a few guys that have entered the portal recently. There's not a Cam Coleman out there. And then I think some of the other guys that they liked or that they were in on have since committed to LSU and Florida. So if you can't go get the best of this, let's go get the best of that. And then maybe it does change the dynamic of your team and your identity, because it's just like, let's just and again, I just wonder if that's the line of thinking. I don't know for sure, but let's just maul people. Let's just road grade them with the running backs that you mentioned in the other episode, and a running quarterback, and then let's go find a few other bodies to throw in at receiver just to cover our bases that aren't as near as big ticket. But Joe Bruner is an NFL player. I mean, he's an NFL player like Cam Coleman is. I don't know. We'll never know, like cost or, is the option is that you could potentially have both. I don't know, and I doubt that, but I think that's the contingency, I guess. But see, this is the timing problem. You're and I'm not saying you could absolutely land Joe Bruner. I think that's where your focus would certainly go. You would be all in on Joe Bruner though, and then make him say no. And then we would get into what happens if Cam Coleman doesn't end up and then Bruner goes to elsewhere. Then what? I mean, don't know that. Because, again, I think there's another week left, and maybe not everybody has shown their cards yet on getting into the portal, So that's a vastly different plan of action, but you're going to it's like an NFL draft. I'm sitting there at pick number 8. I have several needs or possibilities to upgrade, and who falls to me, and I could go a million different directions. And you have to be willing to pivot and, mold and kind of go, okay, well, let's do this. If we can't do that, let's do this, or, whatever. And I think that's kind of where you're at. But these are both extremely big fish.
You know which one I would want?
You may want Joe Bruner.
So you do know which one I would want. All right. Thank you for
Yeah.
that question. That's incredibly exciting.
I've thought about that. It won't.
With all due respect, Chris, with all due respect.
Yeah, and I can see where you're going with that, because maybe you wouldn't. I mean, and again, I think you're back on the whole, man, I just don't know that the bar wasn't just set so high at receiver. But if you put, now you add Joe Bruner, okay, well then what? Like what is Zambrano thinking, and Cash Cleveland thinking, and Sheridan Wilson thinking? Does that mean you don't take Poku, which I think that's kind of already in the works, and I think that we're just kind of waiting on it to become public at this point, or does somebody else internally go, hey man, okay, I'm for sure not playing now. But I think Bruner is a 1-year guy. I think Poku is a 1-year guy, so maybe it wouldn't, but it would. You would have a big time offensive line, and maybe this is what people are asking about really since the Orange Bowl, when people are like, why are we not hearing more about offensive linemen? What's the deal? It's been quiet. I do think the Eric Robinson kid that we mentioned in a different episode, that the kid in from UTEP, I think he is going to visit. I think he was going to go visit Arizona State as well, and I think he canceled that. He's going to go visit Kentucky now, and so I think he's kind of let's just take a look. Let's visit with him. Let's keep him warm and see what happens. But I and again, this is all part of the domino effect. You just don't know how it goes. But Joe Bruner versus Cam Coleman are two completely different things, but they're both. It would just change how you call plays, what your identity is, what you excel at. But but I'm here for trench work. I mean, you don't have to talk me into that at all. And I've thought the same. I've thought the same about, because Cam is much shinier and flashier and will probably get way more national attention, but the Bruner kid, yeah, I mean, he's an All-American guard, so anyway, that would excite me as well. But I'll just say, I'll leave it at this, and then we can move on. Give me either one of them, I would be thrilled.
Sure,
I would be thrilled.
Yeah, and even if you had the greatest pass catching year, last year, I'd still feel the same way. And I'm made biased by my days at 3 yards in a cloud of dust high school, no doubt about it. But the split ends were just the guys that were of no use on the inside. They had to stand somewhere. That's where we put them. But I just think there are some things that go in order. Like, I'm not picking out windows for the house before I have the foundation. The foundation is on the inside, and then you get your nice window.
Yeah, great analogy.
Works. I'm not going to spend too much time trying to figure out if that analogy makes sense or not. Let's move on. That's all exciting, any way you slice it.
I think you nailed it. And they're both 1-year guys. Maybe I would feel different if, like, you were going to get one of them for multi-year or whatever, but these are both, I think, 1-year players for you.
Chris, that's that dance that gets really delicate with the offensive line in that situation, because it feels like, again, like you can't go just window shop and quick fix or quick buy your O lineman necessarily, save for maybe a few exceptions. You need to really be developing those kinds of guys. But whenever you do bring in someone in that group, then you're wondering about the guys you're trying to develop. And okay, now you guys all get the intersecting roads, but that's one that is sort of a difficult balance to strike. Stay tuned for more on that front. This question here, a popular one this week. I've gone back and forth with some texts even prior to this Mailbag Friday on this one, Chris, and I don't know if this is just an imagination that's running wild among some fans or if there was some actual legs to this, but we had several asking about the possibility of changes with a non-conference football schedule in 2026 and the addition of a Power 4 current Power 4 opponent. Is this something or internet fan fodder?
I wouldn't totally dismiss that. I don't know if anything is imminent, but I think, yeah, I just wouldn't totally dismiss that. But I also just don't think there's anything like set or necessarily like about to be announced. But I guess we'll stay tuned there. But I think it would be smart to do something different other than traveling to Corvallis. I just also know, because we're talking in the immediate, right? We're talking
Yeah.
about this coming fall, right?
Yep.
I also think it would be smart to try to upgrade there a bit. You're going to get zero help from anything you do in the non-conference, so you better go win the league again, or you better smash everybody like you did this year. And that sounds like a good plan to me. But
That's your margin for error.
right, and that's why. So I can see the reasoning for the fodder out there, certainly, and I just again, I don't think this was the intent when this stuff was scheduled. It's like, hey, let's try to take it easy, no. But I can see where there would be some question out there, like, hey man, should we be doing this, or is there anything there, or whatever. But again, it's also like, that's 9 months away, and who needs a game out there, who has available, what about the date, I mean, all that stuff, right? So this stuff gets, if there's anything going on, you'll hear about it very quickly.
We have Caden and Mike asking about running backs. I want to get back to that group. And the gist is, how do you see Leftwich balancing out this group and I guess the hierarchy? Do we just go right back to what it was prior to this year, or has it evolved now with a year of production from the other two?
And back on the scheduling thing, I was thinking too, is like the Notre Dame BYU series just got announced like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So you can do it. You just got to have.
We're in a new age. It's where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, you just got to have a dancing partner and the right date, and then is there a home and home? And because I guess you'd be willing to go play on the road first in a scenario. So anyway, okay, running back. I think that depends on. This is Garrett McGuire's call. I think that depends on Quentin's health and where he's at, how quickly he gets there. Is this a ramp it up process with him? Is he going to be good to go in August and September, or is it a kind of a let's just kind of work him into this mix? And would you use Rowden to kind of as the third back to kind of allow? I mean, or he could be good to go by July and be like, dude, he looks like the same guy. I mean. So there's some variation there depending on that. All things being equal, and a healthy Quentin Joyner, I get the sense that this is a Joyner-Dickey backfield with Jacoby as kind of like a utility guy and a change of pace back that you can throw it to more, use him in the slot more, certainly use him as a full-time returner with my man Kenny Johnson. Don't sleep on that kid as a returner at all. The young man from Pitt. So that's what I would envision there. But again, you would be able to run, 12 or 22 personnel a lot more. And that's another thing we haven't talked a ton about. You still need another tight end. And I believe that will be Nevada's Jet Carpenter. That's what I think. I think he's the John Carlos Miller replacement. So we'll kind of stay tuned for that and see if I'm right.
All right, thank you for that question. We had Joe and we had Ryan and a few others asking about anything further you can share on the Wendell Gregory pursuit that did not wind up with a union. And also, just as an aside, Chris was asking, a different Chris, are there any Portal Target episodes we've ever recorded and then didn't release because somebody went elsewhere? I'm racking my brain. I can't even hardly remember.
Did we release something and then they ended up going somewhere else?
No, I think we might have sat down and talked to Wendell for a few seconds.
We sure. Oh yeah. Well, we did. We never released that one though. We never released that one. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Wendell Gregory, the player, and I think that you're not going to find anybody that has anything bad to say about him. I think his representation is out there. I think they are difficult. I think the word out of Stillwater is that this individual or whatever, plural or singular, whatever, had frustrated everybody, that they got to where it was only one person in the program that could deal with the guy or guys. I think that finally, I think Texas Tech just threw their hands up and was like, yeah, we're not. It's no shot at Wendell Gregory, but you have to understand too, like the player. These people work for these players, but there's too many kids that are dealing with family, friends, or probably too young to understand what all is going on and speak up. But the player gets to dictate what they want. This is where I want to go. This is what we're looking for. And these representatives should be an advisory role as much as anything. But I think they're trying to raise the price, whether the kid's happiness is at stake or the scheme fits or whatever. I mean, there's just a lot of novices out there in this space. Whereas like a guy like Cam Coleman, he's got an NFL agent. That's why you're not really seeing anything out there on what all is going on. It's all being run through one of the biggest agencies that there is in sports, David Mulugeta and company. They're based in Austin. So, but I think Wendell Gregory's agent, at least here, I think they were just like, yeah, we're done. Appreciate it. And so who knows where he ends up, but maybe not even somewhere where he wants. But I think they really like the player. I really do. And it's unfortunate because I'm not so certain that that's not what the player wanted to do, but don't want to deal with these people. And so you don't have to. So, and because I think you would have been okay adding Trey White, Adam Trick, and Wendell Gregory. Wouldn't that have been fun? But I think now you'll probably add Trey White, Adam Trick, and CJ Wesley, and maybe keep hunting. I don't know. We'll see.
Some of these representatives within the college game, quote unquote, have got to go the furthest to justify their desks, I'm sure, which can lead to the biggest obstacles to progress, I'm sure. And maybe this a casualty as a result of some of that, unfortunately. But as for Chris's question, I believe that's the one, Chris. We don't just gather at the Portal River to talk without some kind of imminent feeling. Going back over last year to this year, I believe Gregory's the only time that we felt like there was something and then there wasn't something. And so that conversation is now sealed 7 floors below sea level in a bunker. But I'm trying to think back, too, just as far as anything behind the curtain. I think Howard Sampson was the most advanced conversation we have. And then we waited for some development for quite some time.
Yeah, and we wondered, okay.
And then eventually it did happen. Otherwise, have not missed one.
Yeah, Howard Sampson, we sat on that one for 3 weeks and then wondered, okay, maybe this isn't happening. But yeah, like I got a call from somebody in Oklahoma City that covers Oklahoma State and everything, and they had heard all these stories about Wendell Gregory last year, and he goes, "Hey, I saw Texas Tech is out on Gregory," and he just was laughing as he said it. He goes, "I bet I know why." And I was like, "Yeah, you heard anything about like who represents him?" And he just laughed. He goes, "Dude." So yeah, we didn't know any of that. And then as it's played out, now it's all kind of comes to light. So yeah.
All right, Chris, we'll call her good there. Appreciate everybody for keeping the mailbag overflowing once again. And of course, keep them coming anytime on any subject. I can't actually wrap it up without this question from Claire and many, many others, because I told myself I was going to include it. Electrified by the Lady Raiders in Morgantown, West Virginia. They just want to know, Chris, do you think the Lady Raiders are for real?
Yeah, you can't be 17-0 and not be. Are they ready to win the Big 12 conference? I don't. I think we probably need to see a bit more. But I mean, I think it's a great story. It's an improbable story based on where they were picked, and I mean, heck, at this point, it's kind of got like an Arizona State football vibe to it. But a long way to go, and that would require them winning the actual league and everything like that. But I mean, I don't think anybody envisioned this. Their non-conference schedule on paper was not strong. They still have yet to face, some of the top teams in the league. But it good for Coach Gurley, and you you have the addition in recent days that would help their post play and all that. The main thing, and I'll move on, is that they finally have a point guard. They've just not really had a point guard, so Bailey Maupin is now allowed to play her more natural position, and I think that is now it's all working beautifully. So good for them. But this is just everything's coming up. Texas Tech and West Texas, man.
Recruit Groover. That's the lesson. I used to always say reserve a scholarship for anybody from Canadian that wants to come try out for the Red Raider football team. I don't care who they are. We'll put Groover on the list maybe for a couple of different sports. Any portal additions out of Groover to be on the lookout for. We'll get to that maybe coming up on Monday. But, yeah, that was a great game. I got to see that one from Morgantown. earlier in the week, and mopping was money on both ends. Defended Matt as well, so that was a lot of fun to watch. Hopefully they will keep that rolling. I believe in Cincinnati this weekend. All right, Chris, appreciate you, man. Regulation, OT, all the time in between. Stay tuned, stay close. You got some hoops in your future, and I know we've got more portal partying in our future. So we'll see you then.
Sounds good, man. And again, yeah, many days to go. Keep your head on a swivel this weekend because there will be movement this weekend. I feel pretty certain about that. What all does that entail? That's a wonderful question. One that we don't necessarily know the answer to, but I think that we'll talk next time. And tricky game for the Red Raiders in Boulder, Colorado, but we'll be back to break all that down and whatever movement we've had in the portal next time.
Looking to be Colorado State champions if we can get a win over the Buffs, and everything else. We'll text about it this weekend. You got the number. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thank you guys and gals for being out there. We'll see you on the other side.